keep feeling like any minute now. And I know not about Trey McBride. You've said many times that might not be happening anytime soon for the Cardinals.
Not expecting it this week.
But just something from the Arizona Cardinals. Something. I know free agency starts on Monday, but something, hey, we've reached an agreement with so-and-so, Baron Browning, Evan Brown, Kelvin Beachum, like any of their own that they're expected to keep. Again, they've got time. They've got all day today, all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As long as they do it before Monday at 10 a.m., I guess it doesn't matter. But there's just been so much business being conducted in the NFL in this final week leading into free agency. Like, I know you've said it. The Cardinals want to re-sign some of their guys. And I just keep waiting, for that news that something has happened. But so far, nothing has happened yet.
Well, you got to remember these guys, too. Like, these guys might want to see what the market bears for them. Like, if you're Roy Lopez or Baron Browning or L.J. Collier or Kelvin Beachum, you might want to, like, instead of just jumping at the offer the Cardinals give you, you might want to say, okay, let me just see what's out there.
Yeah.
And for some guys, it might be, hey, if somebody gives me a 2-year deal instead of look, Jock Peterson, Diamondbacks would have loved to have had him back on a 1-year deal. But they weren't going to give him more than 1 year. And when he was able to go out and get 2 years, okay, that's it. And for him, it was like, I would have stayed in Arizona if all things were being equal and it was one, but somebody offered me a 2-year deal. I got to jump at that. So you do got to give these guys an opportunity to see what the market bears for them.
No doubt. No question about it. And like I say, plenty of time for something to happen. I also kind of had wondered, too, seeing all of these cuts going on around the NFL. Not that the Cardinals need to cut anybody. They don't. They got plenty of cap space without it. But I do wonder about Jaylen Thompson. I do wonder about whether given how well Rabbit played and all the money they have allocated to safeties, I know they've got plenty of cap space, so if they want to bring Jaylen Thompson back, there's no pressing need to do it. But I have wondered about him and whether he could be a cap casualty because they're ready to move on to a younger player and give themselves more money to spend. But so far, again, nothing's happened on that front either.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because Taylor Demison played so well. And, do you want 3 or do you want 2? You have so much money tied up into that position, too, with what you paid Buddha and then what Jalen's making. Taylor Demison comes on the cheap. You could free up a lot of money if you decided to make that decision and cut Jaylen Thompson, and you've got the belief that Taylor Demison's good enough and ready to play. It's just a matter of, do you like the security of having 3 guys over 2?
Yeah, and the Cardinals are not motivated by need when it comes to that with Jaylen Thompson. A lot of these teams that are making these cuts are motivated by, hey, we need more space. The Cardinals don't need to do anything to create more need. 5 predictions for the Cardinals in free agency. This was a story that you sent everybody. With free agency set to begin Monday at 10 a.m. Arizona time. 5 predictions for the Arizona Cardinals in free agency. The first is one that we have talked about many, many times. Prediction number 1, Arizona breaks the bank for Eagles defender. They speculate on the 2 that we've speculated on quite a bit, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. They mentioned Zach Bond as well. Zach, of course, re-signed with the Eagles yesterday, so he is off the board. They write we can call these guys the big 3 as players near or at the top of their position group, and it just so happens all 3 of them are need for the Cardinals. It's not going to be Zach Bond, but Milton Williams or Josh Sweat, absolutely. Arizona breaks the bank for an Eagles defender. Could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the first thing we both look at. This was an Arizona Cardinals piece on SI.com, 5 predictions for the Cardinals in free agency. And, that's the one that stood out the most and makes the most sense, that they're going to break the bank for an Eagles defender. They'll spend the majority of their money there. Now, if they go get Josh Sweat or Milton Williams, we're going to know this because those guys are going to get paid a lot. They're going to fill in around the edges with our other guys. They might have to wait it out. Like, say you talked about if they strike quickly in free agency. Mm-hmm. They might strike quickly there, and then you might have to wait a number of days for the price to come down on other players before they sign anybody else.
Totally. I could totally see that. Number 2, 5 predictions for the Cardinals in free agency. Number 2, the Arizona Cardinals avoid a veteran edge rusher. Speaking specifically of Khalil Mack, but also mentions Hassan Reddick, also mentions DeMarcus Lawrence, also mentions Matt Judon as guys who are older that the Cardinals would be advised, or at least they're predicting that they would avoid. Maybe somebody like Joey Bosa's on that list, given that he's maybe not older, but he's certainly injury prone. Trey Hendrickson, he's available for a trade. He's 30. He's awfully productive, but he might be on the wrong side of 30. But that was their prediction in that regard.
You know, if we want to base a little bit of this on what they did last year, they were very aggressive in going after guys that had a really good track record of being available. Now, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because like
irony.
3 of them got hurt.
Yeah.
But they, if you want to say, okay, let's look at the last year. Is there anything we could take out of last year? Yes, you can. They were very active in going after guys in free agency that had a track record of being available.
And if that's their MO, I don't want to say it automatically rules out Joey Bosa, but it makes it kind of hard to believe that Joey Bosa would be something they'd go after. Number 3, veteran offensive line targeted heavily. Their prediction is that Jonah Williams is going to be a cap casualty. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, but they're throwing out names they potentially could go after as a possible replacement if they do that with Jonah Williams. And move on from him. I don't know if they would be looking to draft somebody. I think that's certainly either in the first, second, or third round. I think you can almost bet a car payment they're gonna target an offensive lineman. I don't know if it's going to be an interior or a tackle, but they're suggesting that in free agency they could go after some veteran offensive linemen and maybe even want to replace Jonah Williams. Perhaps
I don't think that they're replacing Jonah Williams.
No, you don't think so?
I'm trying to find my notes back on that, but I think I was that they were going to keep
I seem
Jonah
to remember.
Williams.
Oh, I don't remember what day it was, but I remember we had that conversation where you thought you were pretty sure they were happy with Jonah and they were gonna keep Jonah Williams.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find my notes on that right now, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to keep Jonah Williams.
I remember it doesn't save them a ton of money to move on from Jonah Williams. Like it's not like one of these, we're going to save a bunch if we move on. Kyzir White leaves. Poor Nick Rollis, who named his kid after him, for goodness sakes. Kyzir, This is prediction number 4. Kyzir White leaves. The Arizona Cardinals sign a replacement for him at interior linebacker.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
I could see that.
I could see it too. The social media games Kyzir playing where he, kind of posted a goodbye, and Mac Wilson Sr. was like, no, man, don't go. They mentioned Eric Kendricks as possibly a target, Bobby Wagner as possibly a target, which would be really interesting because he had a nice bounce back year. And then this one, the Cardinals go bargain shopping for a wide receiver.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Speak on that because it sounds like you got something to say.
I think that makes – I don't know for sure. We've gone over the wide receivers, right? I mean, you could trade for DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett just got released. Cooper Kupp's out there, Devontae Adams. But it might be – those are bigger names. It might be that there's a decent wide receiver that you like and that you could get him for a lot cheaper, and you bring him in to compete with the guys that you have, to compete with Michael Wilson and see if that can happen. So I think that's where you're going to – because I'm like you. I'm really hopeful that they don't spend one of their top 3 first-round draft picks on a wide receiver. I'm really hopeful of that.
I would really not be a fan. And I might rue the day I say that. I wasn't a big fan of them drafting Trey McBride, and oops. So, take it with a grain of salt. But no, I wouldn't be a big fan of that. I do wonder. It just feels like, and maybe it's just because of recency bias and all these names that have just been put into the market. It feels like wide receiver might be a position you can wait out a little bit, and just see, is there a lot of supply out there? And that means, if there's a lot of supply out there, you can kind of wait it out for the prices to come down a little bit. And maybe you could get that number 2 wide receiver for not as much as you would spend if you go immediately after it in the first couple of days. Feels like wide receiver could be a spot you could do that with.
I found my notes. I sent this to you on January 9th. Jonah played really well when he played. They expect him back for camp. They believe that they're set at right tackle, but you always look at tackles in the draft. They like Isaiah Adams. He's going to be a big part of their offensive line going forward. So on January 9th, I sent you some info on Jonah, that they really liked how well Jonah played, and they expect that he'll be back in time for camp, and they imagine that they're set at right tackle.
How did I not remember that from January 9th? What's wrong with me?
It took me a minute to find it.
I'm starting to slip. I must really, if I can't remember.
I go into my sent files, and I just typed in, I'm getting smarter at this stuff. I just went to my sent files, and I typed in
Jonah Williams, and that popped up.
And
Yeah,
it popped up to like January 9th. Kyzir, at that point, I said they have interest in bringing him back. They weren't really sure what the social media posts meant. No decisions had been made at that time. He's a good player, had a good year. They liked him. The kicker, Ryland, he had a good year. He's young and cheap, so they were very likely going to stick with him. Edge rusher at that point, we said scary across the board. Free agent class isn't great overall, but the draft is really good, so we'll see about that.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.